What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about all of the British countries' names explained. And by that, I mean, why is Britain called Britain? Why is England called England? And so on and so forth. That is exactly what I'm interested in learning about today. You know, I thought about this a little bit, and I thought I knew something about British history, and then I realized I don't even know, like, the most obvious, fundamental, like, question. Like, what is the reasoning behind Britain's name and the British country's names? I don't even know that. So I feel like this is long overdue. So let's take a look.
Why is England called England?
Yeah,
And that's what
why?
we're going to get into now.
Yeah.
Well, over the last millennium and a half, England has been variously called England, England, Angland, Ongland, England, and Angland. You can
Really?
basically stick any vowel at the start and you get an old spelling of England.
Yeah, of course, you can't gloss over the fact that England is a really interesting name because, like, you speak English in England. Is England named England because you speak English, or is English because of England? Or I'm very curious about what the meaning here is.
Except you. I couldn't find an Ungland. But other genuine Old English names included Anglerland,
Huh?
Englalond, Anglenalonda, Ingerlond, and Ingerland.
This is already kind of surprising me. I never thought about the possibility that countries were called many things over the course of time. That makes a lot of sense to me now, because words and meanings and pronunciation seem to change over the course of history as time goes on. But for some reason, I just always assumed, some things are sacred. Britain is always Britain. England was always England. But no, it's had like 12 different pronunciations in the past.
England, England, England.
Oh,
Fun fact,
okay.
England and its derivatives are the only examples in modern English of ENG making an ing sound. Prove me wrong.
Ah.
But all of those names for England boil down to the same thing. They mean the land of the Angles.
Oh.
The Angles were the Germanic tribe that
Oh, whoa. No. Hold up. Stop. This is big. This right here seems to be the crux of it already. It's named after the land of the Angles? Angles? Who are the Angles? But it doesn't matter who the Angles are. We're probably going to learn about that in a second. The land of the Angles would be England. That already, like, kind of solves the mystery for me.
Germanic tribe that popped over to the biggest of the British Isles in the 5th century AD from the Anglian Peninsula. That's part of modern-day Germany and Denmark.
Okay.
The Roman Tacitus is thought to have been the first to write about them. He called them the Anglii. But they didn't come to Britain alone. A couple of other Germanic groups popped across the North Sea at around the same time.
A bunch of Germanic groups sailed across the sea to what would become Britain. And one of these groups in particular, the Angles, I don't know what made them so special, but it was named after them in particular. Why is that?
One of them was the Saxons, and that's why we refer to the Germanic people living in Britain at the time as the Anglo-Saxons.
Right, okay.
The Saxons had come from what is now northern Germany.
Okay.
And a third Germanic group, the rather mysterious Jutes, also joined them in Britain. They're thought to have most likely come over from the Jutland Peninsula in modern-day Denmark, but another theory is that...
This is so fascinating. I honestly didn't even know about this part of English history. All these groups coming from Denmark and Germany. England is named after a group of people who sailed there from Germany, named the Angles. Never knew that. I'm a bit surprised at that.
Actually, they set off from Friesland in what we now call the Netherlands. Anyway, the collective name for these Germanic invaders, the speakers of Old English, were, as I've said, the Anglo-Saxons, because the Angles and the Saxons were the bigger groups.
Oh,
So why
okay,
does
okay.
England, and by extension English, end up being named after the Angles
Yeah.
and not the Saxons?
Yeah.
Well, probably
Yeah.
because the Angles really went all in on their new home, shipping their royals
Oh.
over and commanding larger and more powerful kingdoms. Plus, the Saxons
Ah.
still kind of had their own thing going on back home. Call England Saxon land would.
I was just thinking, like, what if it was named after the Saxons? Saxonland. That's kind of a cool name. No, England, because the Angles got there and basically were the ones who were the most dominant over what is now England, and therefore it's England. It's just that simple.
Have been weird, given that there was another Saxon land over in Saxony. So,
Oh.
land of the Angles it
Yeah.
is. And it
Okay.
is remarkable how consistently it's known as that. All of these names
Huh.
just mean land of the Angles.
That's okay. I was wondering if this whole history lesson was gonna be like easy for me to understand or what the. I am a bit surprised already behind the meaning of England, named after a Germanic group of people a long time ago called the Angles. That's actually real interesting to me. All right, let's keep going.
Story goes that the Old English word for the Welsh meant slave.
Oh.
Well, slave or foreigner.
Oh.
Neither of which is very nice, I'm willing to go on the record as saying.
No.
However, I also want to go on the record as saying it isn't actually quite as simple as that. Yes, an Old English word for both foreigner and slave was this, weal.
Oh, wow. This is kind of dark, huh, isn't it? We're getting into why Wales is named Wales in Welsh, and it's after this old Anglo-Saxon word whale, which wasn't a compliment. It was for foreigner or slave, referring to the Welsh people.
From which we get Welsh. It's like weal-ish.
Wow.
But a look at the word's relatives across other Germanic languages shines a light on some important nuance. You're going to
Okay.
enjoy that when I get to it in a second. But that clearly quite unpleasant link between the English name for Wales and enslavement remains something of a sore point. And there have actually been calls for the name of Wales to be changed. In fact, just a few weeks ago, a
Wow.
petition was started.
No way. I mean, I shouldn't say no way. It makes sense in a certain way. It certainly makes sense, and ultimately it should be just up to the Welsh people to decide what they want to be called. I had no idea that the word Welsh and Wales came from, unfortunately, like a pretty hurtful and like unfortunate history. The Anglo-Saxon word for slave or foreigner. That's too bad. Yeah, to learn about that.
Calling for Cymru, the Welsh language name, to be used in English as well. Now,
Wow. So they want to abolish Wales and make Cymru the name for the country. I mean, as far, my opinion is very, limited based on just what I'm seeing here. I don't know much about this, but if Wales wants to be called Cymru, by all means, if that's what they want, okay.
moving on from Wales, where do you think, so far as the Anglo-Saxons were concerned, the Scots lived? That's right,
Huh?
in Ireland.
What?
It's true. The Roman name for the inhabitants of the big island next door to Britain were the Scotus, long before the...
Huh? Wait, what? I'm just barely hanging on here. The word for Scotland and the Scots doesn't come from where modern day Scotland is. It comes from where Ireland is. The word Scot or Scotus, he said? Scotus.
before the Supreme Court of the United States
Yeah.
came along. The origins of that post-classical Latin term are uncertain, but one of the theories is that it's from the name of a mythical princess from the traditions of a Gaelic-speaking peoples who originated in Scythia. That's an awful
What?
long way away from
What? Okay, so we've got England from the Angles, who went to Britain and took over a lot of England, and it became the land of the Angles, England. That makes sense. Wales was an old Anglo-Saxon word for slave, and Scotland is named after a princess from...
originated in Scythia.
Scotland is named after a mythical princess from Scythia. Is that what I'm learning here? Is that correct?
That's an awful long way away from Ireland, but it is thought that they may have somehow ended up there. It's just a theory. Anyway.
Why is Scotland named after Ireland to begin with? I'm still not even clear on that. Then we got to the whole Princess of Scythia thing.
There are examples in Old English of the word Scotland being used to mean Ireland. This quote uses the Latin name for the island of Ireland, Hibernia, and clarifies it by saying, which we call Scotland.
What? Huh? Wait, my brain is done. I'm so confused. Scotland was the old name for Ireland? Is that also correct?
That's cool, right? People living in what is modern-day Scotland only start being called Scots when the Irish Scots cross over to the bigger island next door from the 5th century onwards.
There we go. Thank you. I should have just been patient and let the video play. Here we go. It's because the Irish Scots that came from Ireland moved towards modern-day Scotland and took that name there with them. Got it.
Then, modern-day Scotland is dominated by a group called the Picts, who got their name from the Latin word picti, which meant painted people, apparently because of their tendency to decorate their skin. But Scotland doesn't start being called Scotland for a few more centuries. In the meantime, the area where the Celtic Scots and the Picts are living gets the name Alapa, which is actually one of the official names of Scotland even today, and comes with an extremely confusing adjective form. Throughout all of this...
Alba. I've never heard that before. Alba. Okay.
By the way, Ireland is called Ireland. Apart from the occasional reference to it as Scotland, the Old English name for the island to the west is Ireland. A name...
Oh. and then we just get to Ireland, and it's like, Ireland is called Ireland because it's called Ireland. Duh. Like, oh, okay, Ireland. I guess that goes way back. What it was being called by the Anglo-Saxons or England, whatever you want to call it, they basically got to decide what everything was called, I guess. Or at least some things, like Wales and Ireland, and just got to name them, basically. Okay.
Based on the Irish Celtic name for it, Eru. That in turn originates from the name of a Celtic goddess of the same name. The modern Irish descendant of that word, Éire, is used today to mean both the island and the state of Ireland, which excludes Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom. Actually,
so Ireland is based off like an old Celtic word, not just what England felt like calling it. Okay.
Did you know that the full name of the UK is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland?
Right. Most Americans do not know this. I didn't know this for the longest time. The official name, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Yeah, most of us Americans have no idea about Northern Ireland. No offense. Most Americans have no idea. Ireland is like separated into two. We just call it Ireland. I don't know how we missed the boat on that one, but we did.
That's what it says on my passport. Great Britain is the big island with England, Scotland, and Wales on it.
Right.
So where does the word Britain come from?
Yes, okay, here we go. The main event. Finally, we've learned about England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland. And finally, why is Britain called Britain? Yes, perfect. What? I'm dying to know.
Then, well, it's from the Roman name for the island, Britannia. Britannia, in turn, comes from the ancient Greek name for the British Isles, Britannica, which...
That's a cool name, Britannia. Britannia became Britain. That is a cool name. Man, it could have been called Britannia now to this day, which comes from Britannic? How do you say this?
Britannia, in turn, comes from the ancient Greek name for the British Isles, Britannica, which...
Britannico. Britannia. And then Britain. Cool.
Greeks are believed to have taken from the Celts who were living there. The theory goes that those Celts were calling themselves something along the lines of Prytani, which is thought to have also meant painted or tattooed people, like Picti did for the Romans.
Okay.
So what's so great about Great Britain? Good question. Well, it's not actually a boast. It doesn't mean excellent Britain, even though
I didn't realize we were going to get into the full name. So that's the origin of Britain. We're going to talk about the great part. Great Britain. Why is it so great? It's not a boast. That's funny.
Our overcrowded trains and polluted rivers really are world class these days. The great is likely just a reference to the island's size in relation to the other Britain, Brittany, in northern France.
What? When? Since when? Brittany? Northern France? There was a part of Britain in France, apparently. I didn't know that. So compared to tiny little Brittany, this is Great Britain. Big Britain. Okay, this is really interesting. History.
It might surprise you to hear that the local language in Brittany, Breton, is closer to Welsh than it is to any other language. It's a Brythonic Celtic language, just like Welsh and Cornish. The people of Brittany share a huge amount of Celtic heritage with the Welsh, and the plot thickens yet further when you consider that the Irish Gaelic name for Wales means Little Britain. There's one more term for Britain, the great one, that...
Isn't that a TV show as well? Isn't that the name of a TV show in Britain? Anyway, okay.
I should mention, and that is Albion. This is another name used by the Romans, but whereas Britannia referenced the people, Albion is thought to have been more descriptive. There are two compelling theories for where...
Albion? Britain was also called Albion? Albion, I feel like that was in a video game that I played growing up. A place called Albion. They were that was a real place. It's not made up. It was Britain. When it's referring to the people, they're Britain and British, but the original place, the land, was called Albion. That's a good name too.
Where the word comes from. One is that it's from the Latin for white, Albus. Albus Dumbledore means white bumblebee, so far as I can tell. Why would Britain be white? Well, the first thing that greets you if you approach it at the right angle is the white cliffs of England's southern coast. The other theory is that Albion, like Britannia, ultimately comes from a local Celtic word, this time meaning world, the world of the Celts. It's also
interesting. So they might not actually know exactly where the word Albion comes from, whether it's from this Celtic word or the old word for white, meaning the white of the coast of Albion that you saw. Very interesting. But what's for sure is all of this does make sense. Like, the names are not just random. There's always a very definite purpose behind them.
Also where that word Alapa, meaning Scotland, comes from, and the modern Welsh and Irish words for Scotland too.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I think that's actually where we're going to leave off here. That was a very good video. That was by Rob Words. I got to give that a like, because that was very well done. Very well researched. Again, this ended up being like a history lesson or something. But I actually found myself really enjoying it. It wasn't boring. It was fascinating. Just the meaning behind names. And none of it is an accident. But the names of Britain and the British countries do have very, very different origins. Some kind of good, some like bad, like the Welsh origin of the word for Welsh and Wales. That was unfortunate. And really, actually quite interesting. And again, stuff I never knew about Britain, even though when thinking about British history, I'm surprised it took me this long to be like, wait, what does Britain even mean? And I mean, there's a lot of stuff it means, apparently. It is Britannia, it's Albion, it means white, it's got Celtic meanings, there's a lot. That's actually quite fascinating. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of this stuff we learned here today. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and British culture and stuff about Britain I've never learned before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.